I think we are live.
All right. Can you hear me? Nitro?
Yeah.
On the stream you can?
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool.
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool.
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool. Okay, wait.
Sorry, that's me.
All right, so I need to maybe mute. Who is that? Just want to make sure that that wasn't...
Yeah, that was me because I jumped onto the Twitch. I'm trying to grab the comments
Okay.
so I can see those. Little pop-out chat. Exit out. Cool.
Cool. Alrighty, are we live?
Yeah, I think so.
Awesome. Let me make sure.
Awesome.
Make sure. Wow, the quality looks good. Okay. Trying to figure out here. So was that live? I mean, was it? You hear my echo right there?
Yeah, I think it was because my Zoom
It's
wasn't muted, but now it is.
Oh wait. So here, let me put some headphones in then. What's going on, everybody? It's popping. All right, can everybody, we good? Everyone can hear us?
Yep.
Awesome. Wow, it's popping off in here. What's going on, guys? 291 so far. Beauty.
Cool. Hello, everyone. I was live.
All right. We'll give you guys a few more minutes to stream in here. We got a couple people coming in from different social medias.
Should I? So far, everybody's asking about the camera. Should I let them know, or should we suck them in till the end? But I just tell them at the end. Sneaky.
Yeah. This might be the most HD Twitch stream I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, honestly, it's pretty rad though, cause yeah, I got all that hardware to get it to all set up, and actually Canon makes the software to link it all, so I didn't even need this hardware that I thought I did. So it works out great. That's pretty pumped.
All right, we got a couple more people filing in here. We'll give it till 6:05, guys, and then we'll get started. All right. And you guys are here for the first ever Wiseguy Investing business seminar, lecture, presentation. If you want to learn how to start a business, build a product, make money, we're here to help you guys.
Yeah, we're gonna have a Q&A at the end, so I'll answer the
306 people.
I'll answer the camera question at the end in the Q&A.
Alrighty, let's think we should get this thing started. So welcome everybody. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This is 4 to 8. You guys hear me on the audio. You don't see me on the video. I'll let our guest introduce himself.
Hey, so my name's Lance. I run the TikTok currently called Makers Academy. My history is in product development, launching on Kickstarter, and I've been doing that for like 10 years, developing product and building small businesses that have turned into larger businesses. And yeah, so Makers Academy is kind of what we built on top of some of my other businesses to teach people how to do the same thing. So we just had a ton of people asking us all the time, like, how did we do so well on Kickstarter, or where do I even start to build a business? So we just kind of put that together in the Makers Academy, and we're teaching it, on both the TikTok, and then, we've released some courses and stuff as well. So.
Awesome. All right, guys. So without further ado, let's get into it. So we're going to do this kind of interview style, and if you guys have any questions, we're going to try and answer them. If there's if everyone's asking the same questions on the side, we'll answer them as we go. But otherwise, we'll try and save some of them till the end. And let's get into it, man. So Lance, you've been crushing it, dude. Like, everything we're seeing coming from your pages, like, your content is just absolutely insane. So where did you start, and how did you get to the point that you're at right now?
Yeah, so, I mean, I kind of have, like, the traditional entrepreneurial story to some extent. Like, as a kid, I can remember in 6th grade, I started, like, crocheting my own beanies and selling them to my friends and stuff. Probably most of them I just gave away, but that's when I, like, started really thinking of branding. Even as a kid, I can remember being, like, just so stoked on Nike. Like my parents couldn't afford to buy me, like, Nike, like, good Nike, so we'd go to, like, Payless shoes, and, like, but I was like, I have to have Nike, so they're just, like, these cheap, like, whatever. Anyway, so my whole life, I've always thought of, like, branding and products, and it's been on my mind. So then going into, like, junior high and stuff, I started, like, sewing hoodies together, like, cutting up hoodies and sewing them together, and I had a brand called Niche. And so through, like, junior high, high school was, like, me, anything I made, any art, anything was all within Niche. And then, but it was still, like, really small scale, like, me just kind of learning how to create products was way more of what that was. And it was simple, like, clothing stuff, what most people get into at the beginning. And then it wasn't until I was, like, in my early 20s, I started doing a lot of SEO, like, which is essentially, it's just helping the people to show up on Google. And I got hired onto, like, this pretty big SEO agency. And I worked my way up and started getting to know it really, really well. And so I had a friend of a friend that, like, started this eyewear company called Proof Eyewear. Excuse me. Ooh, the burp. Sorry about that. But they make like eco-friendly eyewear, so wooden eyewear and stuff. And they were a friend of a friend, so I was like, dude, link me up with them. Tell them I'll help them to, like, show up on Google. So we met up, and I was like, hey, I'll work for free. I don't need to get paid. I just really want to learn from you guys. And so I started doing some SEO work, like helping them to show up on Google. And then I was like, hey, your guys' website sucks. Because honestly, it was a big cartel or something. It was pretty much, it was just kind of a thrown together thing. It's like, your guys' website's not that great. Can I rebuild your website? And they're like, sure. And I had no idea how to build a website. But I just went for it. And I asked all my friends that did build websites, like anyone I could talk to, I chatted with. I did a bunch of research online. And I built a decent website. And then I was like, hey, now we have this website, but all your product photography is all over the place. And at that time, around that time, I bought my first, like, real camera. So I was like, can I retake all your product photos? I'm like, sure. So, but again, I had no idea how to do it. So I just started researching online. Honestly, this was 10 years ago. So there wasn't nearly as much information as there is now. YouTube was still really, really small. And so it was mostly me just making it up, I bought some, like, yard lights, those, like, square, like, yard lights that they sell at, like, Home Depot. I bought those, and I, like, built this whole wood setup to, like, get the lighting that I wanted, which, looking back now, it was terrible. But the main thing was I got really consistent lighting on all their products, so it just felt like a real website, and then building that real website helped out a ton. Anyway, but I ended up working for Proof for 8 months for free. And that was mostly nights and weekends. I was still doing, like, the Google optimization stuff at my full-time job during the day. But I was working, like, 20 to 30 hours a week at night for free. And then when it came, like, 8 months later, I was like, hey, guys, I want to quit my full-time job. I have some freelance stuff lined up, but if you guys can just pay me, like, $600 a month, I'll continue to do a lot of the stuff I'm doing now. But will pay all my bills, and so I can quit my job and, like, just start freelancing and whatever else. So they're like, sure. So that turned into a part-time job, and then like 3 months later or something, they offered me like a full-time salary job, and I became the creative director of that company over time. And it ended up being like a 5-year creative director job, helping them develop tons of products. And that's kind of where I got like most of my knowledge of like how to develop a product, and really got over the being scared of developing a product, right? Like the I don't really know how to do this kind of feeling, because we're like, oh, we want to make wallets. Okay, how do we do that? And we just find manufacturing. We just figured it out. And anyway, so I got a lot of that stuff out of the way, which is really awesome. So that's kind of the first half of my story. I can keep going if you want, or we can
so
go in a different direction.
I want to unbox. Sorry, there's a little bit of there's like a 5-second lag between when I talk and when you talk, so sometimes it sounds like I'm cutting you off, but I promise I'm not trying to. So I wanted to unpack something there that you said that I think is really important. We've been talking a lot about free game, right? Like one of the things that I'm super key on is like giving back to people and sharing that free game. Well, some free game that I've been told in my lifetime and that's really worked for me, and it sounds like it worked for you, was working for somebody for free. And the whole time you're really learning from them and making the most of that opportunity. And that's something that you can't really put a dollar value on. Can you go a little bit deeper into that?
Totally. Yeah, and that's something I've tried to push as well, because I see a lot. So I have a friend who is a photographer, and he is super talented. He shoots a lot of film, and I love his stuff. But he's just kind of like, there's just this confusion between like getting paid, not getting paid, like feeling like he should be getting paid, and I think that's like this weird thing to kind of balance and work through, because you hear like maybe your mentor who's teaching you how to do photos is like, dude, you need to be charging thousands of dollars. And you're like, well, I don't feel like I can. But then at the same time, it's like, oh, there's this opportunity, and my mentor's saying charge thousands of dollars, but I feel like I can do this for free because it'll build me up. There's like this weird balance between all of it that you kind of have to like work your way through. But I'm way more on the do things for free until you feel awesome and you feel like you're bringing value, and then start charging people and figure it out from there. But I think there's just so much knowledge to be gained through working for free, and there's also not as much pressure there. I think like the pressure of like a $2,000 photo shoot is super, super high, and if you're new, that pressure is just going to burn you out. But if you're super comfortable, all of a sudden that whole game changes like quite a bit.
Cool. And then just from a freelancer perspective, because we have a lot of freelancers of all different photographers, designers, different things like that. Where do you start, or where did you start, I guess, looking for clients? Or at least maybe what would you do now in this, knowing what you know now, where would you start looking for clients?
Totally. The main thing that I do is, and still today, I'm still doing some freelance, and where all that comes is just meeting as many people as you possibly can. So whether that's like networking on social media channels, whether that's taking people out to lunch that you don't really know that well, but you want to know, you just hit them up or ask people to introduce you. Similar to how I asked my friend, like, hey, I really want to be linked up with those guys. Can you send an invite? Like, can you intro me? Like that put me out of my comfort zone, but it ended up being a really big thing. I think that's what everyone should try and do in any way. Like, if you want to shoot for somebody, they're not going to, if somebody came to me for gravel and was like, hey, I want to shoot your toiletry bag for free. I already have one. Like, here are some photos. I'm not going to turn those down, or I'm not going to be like, nah, I'm going to give them direction and like help them. And then if those come back good, that can easily turn into a job. So I think that's the main thing, is just not being scared to like get out of your comfort zone and talk to people that you don't know, because that's where all my success has come from, linking up with people in uncomfortable ways, or like what would normally feel uncomfortable.
Great. Yeah, I think you've made some great points there. one thing I want to touch on is I think that what people are scared of in the freelance industry is, at what point can you say what you're worth, basically? Like when somebody says, hey, can you do this for me for free? How long can you do it for free? Or, hey, can you, what do you charge? I don't really know what I charge. I've never been asked that. So can you maybe explain that process of growing into like figuring out how much you're worth and what your value is and how you can stay true to that value?
Totally. I think the main thing is taking in, so there's no exact answer for that, right? There's not like, well, you should make sure to charge this amount. How everybody in the industry does it is figuring out a day rate. So for yourself, I think kind of working from that free model that we were just talking about, setting up expectations properly is really important. So if you're going to a brand or an influencer, somebody that you want to connect with, you say, hey, I'll do one shoot for free to show you that my stuff's awesome. And then from then on, like I'd love to chat about like a pricing structure that you're comfortable with. And then it depends on the brand. A lot of times you can ask them, like if you're wanting to work with a brand, you can say, hey, what do you need right now? And they'll be like, oh, this is what we need. Be like, oh, well, what's your budget for that? What's your budget for that is a really good way to get an in on that. Because all of a sudden they say like, we don't have one right now. Or they like, that's the worst case scenario. Best case scenario, they say, oh yeah, our budget is $300. And you say, okay, I can do this for $300. And all you have to do is think, okay, just know that whatever they're asking me to do, I think it's going to take 3 hours to do it. So it will likely take twice that long. So I need to kind of factor that in of like what I'm offering. I should probably offer half of what I think I can do so that I'm not getting screwed either. So I wish there was a perfect model for it. But the main thing, I guess, that I was covering a second ago is figuring out what your day rate is. So say, okay, if I'm working an 8-hour day, I want to be making at least $500 that day. And then working backwards from there. Then you kind of know your half day rate, you know your hourly rate, and you can kind of charge accordingly, according to what you think you can get done.
Awesome. All right, dude, I'm excited to hear the latter part of your story. Let's get into where you're at now and yeah.
Totally. So the cool thing was, so after Proof, I decided to quit and just go out on my own. I ended up doing a lot of freelance video for Kickstarter projects, which I had done Kickstarter before. And if you guys don't know what Kickstarter is, it's essentially just a way to raise money to bring in product. So if I have an idea for a toiletry bag, which is what we ended up launching, should I grab one? I have one.
Yeah.
So if I have an idea for a toiletry bag, I can go create a video about this idea and go kind of share it with people, and then they can pre-buy this product is pretty much what it is. So what that allows you to do is pre-sell like $10,000 worth of this product, which allows you to pay the manufacturer. Excuse me. There's pros and cons to LaCroix. The cons are you get burps, but the pro is they're delicious. So Kickstarter essentially just allows you to get money up front so you can bring in that product. So that being said, I had done stuff for Proof and on my own while working at Proof. And so I started to understand Kickstarter a lot more. So then when I left and started doing freelance photo, video, graphic design on my own, I kind of fell into this niche of Kickstarter because not that many people knew about it at the time. This was like 5 years ago. And so I had a friend come up to me and was like, hey, well, we met at this party, I guess. And he was like, hey, I have an idea for a toiletry bag. Like, it's this product I really want to make. I kind of have an idea for what I want, but I'm not a designer. Do you want to partner on this and launch a Kickstarter project with me? And at the time, I was wanting to start something anyway. So a toiletry bag isn't like what I dreamed of as a childhood, right? But it was something that sounded interesting and fun to make. So I was like, sure. And so we started building it, and it actually turned into a company that we named Gravel. So if you look on Instagram, our tag is just @Gravel. And we started building this company, and it started coming together, and I became really excited about, even though it was just a toiletry bag. It seemed like something I wasn't going to get excited about. But we developed this product, and we went to launch, and I was like, all right. At this point, I think that was my 6th or 7th Kickstarter project that I'd launched on my own, and I had never broken $100,000 on Kickstarter. So I'd always done like 30, 35, 40,000, around that range, which that's really cool, and I was really excited about that. But what that meant was that $40,000 was pretty much just going to the product, and I was never able to make money from those. So I was still having to do like freelance photo and video and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, Chris is my business partner. I was like, all right, Chris, we have to break $100,000 on this project. Like, my whole goal for the project was to get Chris to quit his job. Because I was doing freelance and stuff at the time, but Chris had a full-time job. And I was like, all right, Chris, like, we're going to break $100,000 and you're going to quit your job and we're just going to go all in on gravel. And so we set that goal, we wrote it down, we like pushed forward, and we ended up doing $165,000 on that project. So Chris, I convinced Chris to quit his job. He did, and I was like, dude, we should move to Vietnam. I had 2 kids at the time, and I'm married, and then Chris was married, still is married, but he had no kids. And I was like, dude, let's take our families and move to Vietnam and start developing products with this money that we just raised. And for some reason, he said yes. And so we rallied over to Vietnam for 3 months. And we were like 2 months into this adventure of ours, and we thought we'd like develop a bunch of products. We were like, yeah, we're going to come back with 10 products. We'll start launching a bunch of Kickstarters. And we got like 2 months into our 3-month trip, and we were pretty much out of money, and we hadn't finished developing a single project. So our manufacturer just couldn't do what we wanted to do. And we were running into like wall after wall after wall and just couldn't get there. And so we're like, dude, we either have to launch a project before we leave Vietnam, or we have to go back and you have to go get a job and I have to go back to freelance work again. We're like, dude, we have to do this. So about that time is when our first Kickstarter project was shipping to everybody, and everybody was getting it in their hands. And we started getting feedback like, this is really awesome, but I wish I had a bigger version. And so we're like, all right, that's the project. So we went to our manufacturer. We're like, okay, you have 1 week to make this sample. And they like looked at us like we are crazy people, but we're like, we don't have any other choice. We have to have this sample in 1 week. Here's the drawing of what we want to make that's a variant of what you're already making for us. So we're like, all right. So we came back a week later. We had this in hand. This is the bigger of the toiletry bags. And we launched it, and it was wild because we obviously did prep work for 3 weeks, which is a really short amount of time to do prep work for a Kickstarter project. And we were still in Vietnam, so we launched at midnight in Vietnam, which was 10 a.m. here. And we clicked the launch button, and I literally was like, oh no. And Chris like thought everything was broken anyway. But I thought Kickstarter was broken because we literally jumped up to like $6,000 in like 30 seconds. It made no sense. For some reason, our project was just taking off like immediately. And we ended up between Kickstarter and Indiegogo for that project, we raised $1.1 million for that toiletry bag, which was essentially just pre-selling $1.1 million worth. It was wild. Like, it was one of the craziest experiences of my life, like that 60-day period, because it just kept skyrocketing. And obviously we did a lot of preparation and a lot of work during the Kickstarter project, like making sure that ads, like we created some really good ads. Some of those ads we still use today, 3 years later, because they're just converting really well still. And yeah, it just took off. So all of a sudden it was like, oh, before any of that, it was like, yeah, this is a fun company, but all of a sudden, when you pre-sell $1.1 million worth, it kind of makes you rethink everything. It's like, we can make this into something like pretty incredible. So since then, we've launched a couple other projects. So we launched a blanket that did about $850,000. So also a really massive project. We developed this spring. We launched a full backpack system. So it's like 3 backpacks in one. Which turned out super rad, like really excited for it. And yeah, overall, like pretty crazy experience. So now we have gravel. So since we had all of that, And that knowledge that we built from developing those products, we had people constantly asking us, like, how do I develop a product? How do I launch a Kickstarter project? So that's why we made Makers Academy. It's kind of a brainchild. It's really just a way to teach people how to develop and launch businesses. And it's pretty new. It's only a couple months old, but something we've been working on and building the content for a couple of years now. And anyway, it's been really fun.
Yeah, that's an amazing story, man, and it's super inspiring. I can just tell. I'll be the first one to tell you, like, you're making me want to fly overseas and develop a product. So one of the more technical questions that I have is, from an idea to paper to product, what does it take to get something in, manufactured or made? Because not all of us can fly overseas, and not all of us have a ton of money. And I know that you know some other ways that you can get this stuff done. So maybe just get us on like the right track of thinking of how do you get something that you drew up in math class, this the new pop socket for the iPhone, right? This new idea. How do you start manufacturing that, or even like where do you even look?
Totally. A part of my history that I didn't really cover is while I was at Proof, and then after, so the Proof's the eyewear company. When I was there, I was launching companies at night. So I started a company called Sioux City. I almost brought one of the watches I developed. It's at my house. I was like, I just won't bring it. I should have though. But you guys have probably seen it. It has like a wood face and a leather band. It was knocked off by like 100,000 different people. But so I launched that company while I was still working at Proof. I launched a sleeping bag hammock company called Camp Claiborne while I was doing like freelance photo and video work during that time in between Proof and Gravel. So those products that I developed were literally pretty much napkin drawings. Like I just would draw on a piece of paper. So I like to get these. I like to get anything like a little notebook like this that has, let's see if we can get it to focus. That has just the grid system on it. And then, yeah, just get a pen, draw your idea, your basic idea on it with sizes and stuff, take a picture of it, and you can send it to a manufacturer. It's pretty crazy that manufacturers, like, if they are making hammocks or something, that's like their profession, Like they do it for like tens of thousands of those, or maybe even hundreds of thousands of those a year. Or anyway, so they know those in and out, and so you don't really have to tell them like every little stitch, every little pattern. You pretty much need to just tell them your changes from their original hammock, right? So my sleeping bag hammock, I went on Alibaba.com, which is a really easy place to find manufacturers in China. I went on Alibaba.com, I typed in hammock, found a hammock supplier, and then I said, hey, do you guys also make sleeping bags? And I found one that also made sleeping bags. I figured that since they were both kind of nylon materials that maybe I could find one that made both, and I got really lucky and did. And I pretty much just said, hey, I drew a quick drawing of like, hey, will you just sew a sleeping bag onto the hammock and send it to me? Like have the sleeping bag, just set it on top, stitch it to it, and then just send it to me, and we'll see. Anyway, wanted to check it out. That literally is all I had when I launched a Kickstarter project, and that one raised about $35,000. And then I did a second version of that also did about $35,000. So it's like you don't need like super in-depth skills to develop a lot of products, and that product was super unique. It wasn't like me just slapping my logo on somebody else's product like a lot of people do. I was developing my own product from pieces of paper, like just drawings with a pen, So you don't need like crazy skill. You don't need any of that stuff. Like you can develop whatever you want.
Now, do you think that college, like, do you need to go to business school just to do something like this, or can anybody have an idea and turn it into reality?
So what I always say to the college question is, who's paying for college, right? If your parents are paying for college, go to college. If you have, if some outside person, whether that's the college actually, anyway, it doesn't matter. If somebody else is paying for your college, go to college. Like, there's no downfall to that. The downfall to college is when you're paying for college with loans or, going into crazy debt for it. That's when you have to really look at it and say, okay, what is my return on this college investment? And can I get that return a different way? So my story is I went to, before any of this, I was 18 years old. I went to one semester of college. I ended up dropping out getting kicked out pretty much on academic probation, because I realized, like, what am I doing this for? Like, I'm doing this because my parents want me to do it, because my girlfriend wants me to do it. But what I want to do is be an entrepreneur. I want to start my own companies. And college doesn't add to that. All it's going to do is put me in crazy debt and make me, like, not take the risks that I would normally take because I'm in crazy debt. There's no doubt there's a place for college. Obviously doctors need to go to college, CPAs need to go to college. There's a lot of people that need to go to college, but I would really look at yourself and think, okay, what is my dream job? Does that need college, or can I just go do that? And a lot of times too, obviously a degree, that piece of paper, will get you into an interview with somewhere, but networking and meeting people, looking on LinkedIn for people that work at the company you want to work at, and trying to find them on Instagram and messaging them and, like, really trying your best to get connected with them, will also get you that same interview without the piece of paper. Or even what I did, that I talked about, that SEO company. The company was called Orange Soda, actually. Kind of a weird name, but what I did there was I had no degree when I started there. I went and got literally the lowest sales job. It was the lowest job in the entire company. It was a setter. So they gave me terrible leads that I had to just sit there and call all day. It was just a telemarketing job. But what I did was I met as many people there as I possibly could. So I became friends with all the salespeople. I became friends with, like, the analysts and everybody that was doing things. So then when an analyst job came up, I knew about it and applied, and it was me interviewing with one of my friends. So it's way easier to get the job if you're connected with that person, they know you personally. And so I worked my way up from literally the lowest position in that job to meeting as many people as I could and becoming a senior analyst. So I was doing analytic work on the highest paying customers, like customers that were paying tens of thousands of dollars every month. And I was looking at their website, figuring out, like, what they should change to show up better on Google. All because I just networked and got to know people. So the main takeaway from that big rant is look at yourself, figure out, like, what is your dream job? What is it that you actually want to do? And can that be done without a degree? And I say go try it that way first before going in, like, crazy debt.
Yep, totally. I think you hit the nail on the head with two different things there. One thing that I really took away from that and from this whole chat in general is the importance of networking. And, not everybody has the social skills or the confidence to go out and shake hands and have the uncomfortable conversation. But those that put themselves in the situation and are getting their face in front of other people and shaking those hands, they're setting themselves up for success, in essence. And those are people that you can look back on and say, hey, you remember me? I've got this thing going on now. Like, let's work together. Let's do something. As opposed to the person who, is afraid of making that move. Don't be afraid to make that move. And I think you also hit the nail on the head too, with as far as really, like, thinking about what would make me happy. And, I think where people get lost is like, hey, well, I don't have any money right now. I'm in debt. I have to make money. So I can't just do whatever I want. It must be a nice luxury for you. But what you do have is those 4 or 5 hours after work, when that 9 to 5 is over, that 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock, or that 6 a.m. or that 5 a.m. to 9 a.m., when you can really start working on your side hustle, your grind, your freelance work, and start to turn that into a reality. So, and that's something I really, I've taken away from your grind, your work ethic, and your story. As far as on the product development side of things, so when you're talk a little bit more about Kickstarter, and I know that that's something that's very unique to you, and not a lot of not a lot of, there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there. Not many have expertise in Kickstarter. So give us a rundown of what that process looks like.
Totally. Yeah, the Kickstarter is a really cool place. So it allows you to like fairly easily raise tens of thousands of dollars for your like so you don't have to do that out of pocket. I think that's like one of the biggest and scariest things about starting a company is like, well, okay, I finally found a manufacturer. I paid a couple $100 and I got my sample, and now they're saying it's going to be $15,000 to order this product. I don't have $15,000. Like, what are you like? I'm supposed to save for the next 10 years for this, to launch this company. But that's where Kickstarter comes in. All of a sudden, with that sample, you can build out a video, you can do photo, you can build out this entire campaign. And Kickstarter is a really awesome platform to get you in front of a lot of people. We've seen not only we typically drive about half the conversions within Kickstarter. So if we raised $100,000, we ourselves brought about $50,000, and Kickstarter through its algorithm brings another $50,000. So it's a pretty incredible place to launch. My first product that I ever launched on Kickstarter was these socks, and I literally didn't tell any friends, any family about it. I just launched. I built the campaign in like 2 hours, so it was like just a pretty terrible campaign. And I just clicked launch, and I just wanted to see like, okay, what kind of traffic does Kickstarter itself drive? And without doing anything, it raised almost $3,000. And it's a pretty incredible place for that. Like, what else? Like, what other place could you like throw something up and just click go and raise $3,000? Not very many. So essentially, what you can do is just I'm trying to think of like a good structural way to like talk about how you launch. You figure out.
Well, maybe just walk us through a campaign. You said that you can like pop up a campaign.
Totally. So essentially, what a campaign is there's a video at the top. You take some photos that go in the description, and then actually a text description that goes into that. The main part that you want to focus on with a Kickstarter project, and really launching a business in general, is your first thought is to start like a lifestyle clothing brand. For some reason, there's something like really sexy about that, right? Like even with me, that was my first projects like that I ever put together. My first businesses I ever put together were like clothing. And there's just something about it that draws you in. But the problem with that is everyone does it. Like literally everyone launches clothing. So it's super competitive, and then you're not really bringing much value to people that they don't already have. Like if I bought this sweatshirt and then there's another sweatshirt with your logo on it, it's not bringing me any value to my life because I already have a sweatshirt. So what you need to do is start thinking of products in your life. So all the time, like try and write down 5 things every day, like 5 things that you could invent every day that would bring value. And if it brings value to yourself, like whether that's like you would reinvent a bowl or do a blender a little bit different, or a keychain for your keys that's a little bit different. Try and think of those every single day, and then the things that pop out that bring the most value, that like really solve the most problems. That's the direction you really should go, especially launching a Kickstarter project. If you just like put your logo on a t-shirt and launch that likely wouldn't do very well on Kickstarter. It really takes like an innovative idea, and if you have a good innovative idea, it can really take off and raise a lot of money for you.
That's epic. I know just from my, I'm an entrepreneur myself as well too, and people are always asking, like, I don't have ideas. How do you come up with these ideas, or where do they come from? I'm not a creative person. Like you said, think about the problems that you run into every day in life. So there's right now somebody getting extremely rich off of COVID-19 because they didn't want to touch their hand on a doorknob, so they made a doorknob grabber. You know what I mean? And they're probably making millions of dollars. It can be that simple. And it really can be that simple. There's so many products out there. There's so many different variations. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just need to make something more efficient, make it better. So with that being said, I want to get into some questions, and then let's some questions that our community has. And also, we'll start to, if you guys are ready for that giveaway, stay around another 5 to 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so. We're going to give we're going to do some giveaways for the community. So, first question comes from Skiff Biff. He says, "Hi Lance, I'm a mechanical engineer, mechanical design engineer. I've been developing products for young adventurers to meet energy needs on the go via reliable sources. I've met all the ISO standards and I'm ready to manufacture, but I need capital. The venture capitalist, I've met with wanted insane royalties. Is there any way around this sort of investment?"
Totally. So I think going back to Kickstarter, that's really where you should look into. I don't know the exact product you're developing, and Kickstarter can have some make sure to read the rules and regulations of Kickstarter and make sure that your product fits. But it sounds like it would. That's the direction I would go if it's a specific product. Kickstarter is like an amazing, amazing way to not give up equity in your company, but still be able to raise money.
Awesome. I saw a question up here that I really liked earlier. I'm going to look for it. Okay, so this person said, Lance, I have a question for you. In your whole life career-wise, what were some of the biggest hurdles or walls that you hit emotionally, and how did you overcome them?
So the biggest things that bummed me out the most are I've had multiple times where I've ordered a big batch and spent thousands of dollars on something, and it came in wrong. It got to me, and so even the toiletry bag, the very first run of toiletry bags that we did, we got them and they were sewn upside down, and so all of a sudden it just hits you. You're like, we just spent for that project we spent $80,000 on this product, and it came in wrong. And it just hits you. Fortunately for that, we worked through a brokerage, and the brokerage paid to have it air freighted, fixed, and brought back to us. But there's been other times, my very first company, actually ordered from a manufacturer company, was when I was 21 or 22 years old, was a shirt. And it came in and all the shirts were wrong. I ordered 500 shirts, spent my life savings at the time, which was $3,000. And they all came in wrong. I couldn't sell a single shirt. I ended up donating them all to DI. I held them onto them for a year, and I donated all of them because I didn't feel like I couldn't sell them. The fit was all completely off. So I would say in my career, that's what has just killed me. But really, how you overcome that now is you can easily connect with a third party inspector. Is essentially what they are. So they're pretty cheap. You pay a couple $100. They go, you can do an inline inspection, which they actually look at your product while they're sewing it or creating it. And then there's a post manufacturing inspection. So what they'll do is they'll go, so say you have 1,000 boxes of product, they'll go to 10%. So they'll go to 100 boxes and pull out a product randomly for each, all around different boxes, to make sure that your product is correct. And if it's not correct, you don't pay the rest of the money. They typically fix it. It kind of solves a lot of that. But it took me a couple really hard hits to be able to figure that out.
Cool. Next question. So Swerver says, I'm 14 years old. What would be some advice, or what should I do right now at this age that will set me up for my future?
So what I would do is, for one, there's no reason why you can't grow a successful business right now. Just because you're 14 doesn't really matter. You know TikTok better than I know it. You know, every social media platform, you know better than I know. So all of a sudden, you can look for products that you think would sell really well on TikTok. You can look. What you really need to do, I think the easiest advice is, I call it the 5 daily. At the end of every day, write down 5 business ideas. You can do it throughout the day. It doesn't matter. Do it on your phone, or carry a notepad with you, or you can do it at night. But write down 5 business ideas every day for a week. At the end of that week, all of a sudden, it's about retraining your brain to be thinking of ideas constantly, so that you don't have to sit down and okay, I want to start a company right now. What should I start? You already have a notepad full of ideas, and you say, okay, which ones will bring the most value? But honestly, there's zero reason. Actually, the opposite. If you start a company right now and you launched a Kickstarter project right now as a 14-year-old, you could get way better press and PR. Like Mashable, like all these big people, you'd be way more likely to have success with them because you have a story for them to pitch, right? If I launched something, they'd be like, yeah, a 32-year-old made a toiletry bag. It's like not much of a story. It wasn't a story until we said, yeah, a 32-year-old launched a toiletry bag and raised millions of dollars. All of a sudden, that's a headline, right? But for you, dude, you can create anything you want, and you add the at 14 years old for any of your ads, for any of your Kickstarter, and you'll slay.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great answer, great question. So this is something that is one of the best questions right here. I really like this. How has COVID-19 changed your life, your business, and your outlook on the future?
Totally. For us, we sell travel products. Like Gravel, literally, our whole backpack line is a backpack for international travel. So it was terribly timed. We literally launched it like right after COVID hit. And so our business in general, it's not like we're shutting it down, but it is, excuse me, I need to learn not to drink LaCroix during these. But our whole business has like had to restructure, right? Because we sell international travel products. Like that's what all of our ads were. So we've had to kind of scale back and say, okay, how else is somebody using a toiletry bag? And so we started doing research and realized a lot, like RV sales and RV rentals are way up right now. Like sales are going crazy. So we're like, okay, we need to remake a lot of these ads that include RVs. And it's kind of just, it's not necessarily like, oh man, we're screwed. It's just about adapting and looking like, knowing that, yeah, half the businesses right now are tanking because of COVID, or were when we were like on really strict lockdown. I guess that may be coming again, but half the business are tanking. But what are the businesses that are really succeeding, and how can we adapt our business to match those? I think is a lot more of where it comes from.
Awesome. Hey, so this is a really good question here from Cameron. It's more technical, and even I want to know this myself. So what's your biggest advice for marketing, and how has your marketing approach changed over the years? In specific, I want to hear a little bit more about, you have a big background in film, in freelance photography and film. So, somebody that doesn't have as big of a background in that, maybe touch on that.
Cool. Yeah, I think the two things that really come to mind are, one, a lot of times we think like, okay, we can just launch this company and run ads on Facebook and Instagram and we'll be good. But it's really about like the full cog, right? So you have this cog and each little stem's coming out that makes it like the whole motor grind, right? This whole business grind together. What you really need to focus on is, yeah, this is Facebook ads and Instagram ads, but then this is email marketing, and this is like Instagram stories, and this is developing new products, right? You have all these cogs that work together, and that equals marketing. It's never going to be just one cog. So essentially what that does, like explaining that in depth, is if you're constantly sending out emails, so you send out 1 or 2 emails a week to your email list, whether you got those from giveaways or from pulling people that have purchased your product, right? All of a sudden, when those people see an ad as well, then that's what really that's the second touch that might push them over. Versus that first touch of that ad, they might just scroll past it. So marketing in general is all about getting those cogs. But then jumping deeper into specific ads, what you really want to do in any video that you create for your business, so whether that's an ad or a Kickstarter project or anything, is you want the people seeing that to imagine themselves using it. So there's a company called Peak Design. They make photography stuff. They launched this backpack on Kickstarter. And their backpack did I think it ended up doing like $6.5 million on Kickstarter. Just like insane numbers. And while that was live, me and a couple friends watched it, and we were trying to analyze.
Me and a couple friends watched it, and we were trying to analyze.
Oh, I'm getting some feedback.
Sorry about that. My microphone unplugged. Sorry
that's
about
fine.
that.
So anyway, this Kickstarter was going crazy, and we wanted to analyze, like, okay, this video is obviously way good because it's converting all these people. It's getting all these people to buy this backpack. And so my friend was watching she wasn't a photographer. She rode a lot. We lived in downtown Boise at the time. She rode a lot of fixed gear bikes and stuff and was really into biking. And we were watching this Kickstarter video, and this backpack was for photography, but there's part of it that they grabbed a bike lock and there's a pocket for this bike lock. And audibly she said, "Oh." And I realized in her mind, she was all of a sudden considering buying this photography backpack because it was solving a problem that she had, right? Her problem was a place to store this bike lock. And it kind of changed everything for me. I was like, okay, any video I create from here on out is not going to be saying like, okay, this skateboard has this new rubber wheel, and this is how we make the real wheel. The video from now on is going to say, this rubber wheel allows you to go over cracks and not even notice. This allows you to go through the gravel and not get wheel stop, right? All of a sudden, it makes you think, oh, I want to go over cracks and not feel it, versus like the detail of it. So I think those two things working together is really like where it changes marketing, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. You hit on a bunch of points there. I want to just take over like 4 questions here. Let's make them into one question. About in regards to manufacturers using Alibaba, outsourcing to China, just to kind of combine some of these questions. When contacting the manufacturers, did you have a regifted company, or did you need to create one to contact the company with your idea? And also, without traveling overseas, how do you properly vet the companies and know that they're going to give you the product that they're telling you they're going to make?
Totally. I assume I don't know exactly what you mean by a regifted company, but I can cover the second half of that. Essentially, so Alibaba is a really good place to find a lot of manufacturers. There's pros and cons to that, of course, to finding manufacturers in China. The pro is they're really easy to find. They really know what they're doing. They can create high quality. The con is it's kind of the Wild West, and there's a chance that they can rip you off. But the reality is, even if you make it in Vietnam or in the U.S. and it's selling really well, China's probably going to rip you off anyway. So you don't need to worry about it too much. But essentially what I do is I jump into a Google Doc, and I start contacting every single person on Alibaba that is somewhat similar to the item I want to create. If I think that there's a chance they can create it, I'll contact them and I'll kind of pitch them the light idea of what I want. And I'll put each of those people within a Google Doc. Then I'll keep track of how fast they responded, what pricing they came back with. A lot of I kind of categorize like things that I'm paying attention to them and take good notes on each of them. And I go with like I usually get 1 or 2 samples from a couple different places, and I go with the people that are a mixture. You don't want to go with the absolute cheapest if those people also suck at responding. You want to find like a good mixture of people that respond really well and that also have decent pricing. So that's kind of how I vet through a lot of manufacturers.
Awesome. Yeah, that totally makes sense. Hey, so the question that everybody's been dying to hear, and we're talking everyone, all of the gamers and streamers that are in here want to know, what kind of camera are you using and what is this setup?
So I'll start in the back. The back are a couple IKEA lights. So you can see it literally is just a normal, like, you can use literally any light you want. Just point them straight at the camera, and it gives it a really cool look, adds a lot of depth. Then the actual camera is the Canon 1DX Mark II. It's a really high-end camera, but honestly, you can get a look really similar to this with any full frame camera. So like the Canon 6D, a lot of the Sonys now, the Sony A7S, a lot of those have a full frame. What the full frame does is just create a lot more depth like this. And then the lens is a 50mm lens. So typically for interviews and stuff like this, 50 is a little bit tight, but I really like the depth that it adds. So 50mm is what I have on there. And you can literally, both of these are the high-end version of this, but you could get a Canon 6D Mark I and a 50mm 1.8 for combined like $400 or $500 and have like 80 to 90% of the quality that I have here. The other cool thing that Canon actually did recently is they actually have a software update where you can install a plugin onto your computer and use this camera as a webcam for free. So you literally just run like a really simple USB cord up to your camera, plug it in, install the software, just Google whatever your camera is. So mine, I would do 1DX Mark II as a webcam, and the software will come up, and yeah, you can literally plug straight in and use it. It's really, really simple and easy. And then obviously,
awesome.
Light.
Hey, I want to touch back one.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Lighting is also important. I have the Aperture 120D, but essentially what you're going to want to do is you just want to get the softest light possible. So whatever light you have, try and find a softbox, which a softbox is like the piece of hardware that kind of goes over the light. That is double diffused, so it has like 2 layers of material in between the light shining down and the outside of the thing. Do like a layer of material and then the outside. That'll really soften the light a lot. This light is fairly expensive. It's like the setup, I think I got it used for like $800 or something like that. So it's fairly expensive, but again, you can get a setup that's like 90 to 90% of the quality of this for significantly cheaper, like just off of Amazon, like pretty cheap. So I'm going to on my TikTok, I'm going to be releasing a video of showing you like my current setup versus like this same setup with $500 worth of gear, and kind of show side by side and show like, okay, this is what I'm using because this is what I had, but you don't need to spend $10,000 to have it look like really incredible.
Awesome. Yeah, man, your setup is literally incredible. So I'm in awe right now. Hey, so 2 questions that really stuck out to me that I think we missed. I want to highlight over them. One of them says, Lance, how do you ensure that people don't steal your ideas if you're on Kickstarter, assuming that you're in early development and somebody with money doesn't come along and build it? That's one of them. And then the other one is, on marketing, when you're creating and talking about videos, where people can see themselves using the product, what are the common mistakes that that you see people using when they're creating these ads?
Cool. So the first one is people will rip you off. There's no stopping it. People will rip you off. You just kind of have to try and launch it as fast as you can and make it really awesome. It likely, like, if you go on Amazon right now and type in like gravel toiletry bag, a knockoff of our toiletry bag will come up, and it's like a fifth the price. But the reality is, it's also like the quality is terrible, right? And that's a lot of times what these knockoffs will do is they'll undercut you on price, and their quality will be terrible. And so you don't really have to worry. You still have your market. They hit a market that you don't really hit, and just make sure your marketing is on point. Like, you will, if you have a good idea, you will get ripped off. So don't let it like postpone you. Don't let it like scare you. Just accept that that's the reality, is that at some point you will. And then when it happens, you can laugh and say, yep, I knew it was going to happen. It's happened for every single one of my products, has been ripped off at some point or another. And not a single time, like with gravel, we had some really good friends actually make a toiletry bag that was almost exactly the same as ours. And they're a way bigger company than we are. And we didn't notice a single dip in sales. Nothing. Zero. And it's like, oh yeah, that's right. There's actually like 7 billion people on Earth. And us selling thousands of toiletry bags and them selling thousands of toiletry bags, like, is the smallest unnoticeable fraction to these 7 billion people. So you will get ripped off, and it's not that big of a deal. And then I already forgot the second question. What was the second question?
Yeah, no problem. They're just talking. The question was about marketing, and what are the common mistakes that make ads seem cheap to you, or from your perspective, when you watch an ad, what makes you turned off?
Totally. So it's funny because you would think that I would say like after seeing this video, like, oh, when an ad is super low quality, it really bothers me. But it's actually just the opposite. if it's really low quality yet it still like has that hook, it brings that value, I love it even more. So there's different, like your product videography, like your ads, or whether it's photography or video, it doesn't need to be like production quality. All it needs to do is get those people thinking about using your product and apply it to their life. That's all you need to do. So a lot of times, a ton of ads, it's easy to like get deep into your own product and not think about how people are perceiving your brand and your product. So that's the biggest mistake people make. They start running these ads that they're like, oh yeah, it's such a cool ad, but it doesn't work because it doesn't get people thinking about using it. So I think that's the biggest problem people have.
Awesome. Totally. Hey, Lance, so we've gotten a bunch of questions in regards to, we have members that have services that they offer, right? And so one of our members right here, To Enter Mod, he said, it was Pure Glitch. He said, Lance, do you have any tips on starting a business? I want to start a car detailing business, but I don't really know where I should begin. And above it, we have somebody that says, how would you differently market a service as opposed to a physical product? So maybe you can answer those two together.
Totally. So a lot of these things still apply, right? So the detailing business, how I would essentially do it is, for one, get really good at detailing. But for two, think like whether, a lot of times when you're starting a company, it's easiest to know that business. So if I was starting a detailing company and had never detailed before, I would probably go get a job at a detailing company. And I would start talking to people and figuring out like, okay, what sucks about this company? What can I make better? And then you can start your own. This solves a lot of the problems that current detailers are going through. The other thing, the easier way to do that, I guess, without getting a job there, is to go on Google and check out reviews. So you of like, maybe you have 5 competitors in your area, go read Google reviews on all those people, Yelp reviews on all those people, TripAdvisor on all those people, right? And all of a sudden you can figure out what everybody's complaining about, and that can be your main marketing pitch. Like if they're saying, hey, really awesome job, but it was way too expensive, figure out a way to make it cheaper and advertise where it's $100 versus your competitor's $200. So really, business in general, like maybe you've seen a theme throughout this, is figuring out your value. Like just starting a detail company isn't enough. You have to figure out why your company is going to be different than your 5 competitors, and that's what you need to market as hard as you can.
Awesome. Hey, and everybody, look, that's what we call free game right there. That's why we have Lance on here. He's sharing the wealth, he's sharing the love, he's sharing the free game, and he's putting you guys up on how to start a business. We love that. Hey, so this is a really cool and interesting question. I've actually never heard of this. Intermod says, should you make a knockoff of your own product, by default lower in quality, to target 2 purchasing groups?
We've thought about that, actually. If you have a team to do it, there are a lot of people that do it, right? Like car companies. Car companies do it all the time. Volkswagen is the lesser of Audi. Who else? Anyway, car companies do it all the time. So it's definitely like a strategy that companies use. I've never personally done it, but it's for sure possible if that's something you want to take on. If it's just you, I wouldn't suggest it. I would suggest like really putting all your eggs in one basket. But if you have a team that you build up and you guys think your bandwidth can do it, it's definitely a strategy that a lot of people have used.
Awesome. Great answer. Hey, Clout Lucifer, he's been hanging out here all night. He's asking, hey, I want to start a clothing brand that's focused on textiles and just the clothes in general. I'm not sure if Kickstarter would be good because I want to appeal aesthetically to a market and build the following and then sell to them. What would you suggest in this case?
Totally. So the main reason why I push people against clothing in general is because when you have variants of a product, it's called a SKU. So it's SKU. So even if I made this toiletry bag and then I made a second one that is, wait for it. Anyway, I do a second one that's gray. All of a sudden, this is 2 SKUs, right? So I have to hold inventory for both of these. And inventory is the worst part about a product business. All of a sudden you have to put up, tens of thousands of dollars. In our case, we have to put up hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it just gets so expensive so fast. And the second you have to bring on a second SKU, you have to, like, if you're like your MOQ, or like the minimum order that your factory will allow. So your factory says, okay, for every shirt you make, you have to order 100 shirts. All of a sudden, you have to order, you have to order 500 shirts or 400 shirts because you're doing a small, medium, large, XL, right? So all of a sudden, you have 4 SKUs that you have to worry about keeping inventory for. You have 4 SKUs that you have to every time you launch a new design, you have to have that makes 8 SKUs for 2 colors, right? Businesses are the simpler you can make them. So if you can keep those SKUs down to 1 SKU, this is not even released. This is a sample because we keep this 1 SKU. We have not varied off of black, and we just sell black, so we only have to worry about the inventory for black. So all that to be said is clothing is really, really difficult to get into, not only because it's super saturated, but also because taking care of all those SKUs and making sure they're in stock all the time is so hard, and it sucks. Because you don't know, maybe the mediums are selling way better than the smalls, but you ordered the same amount because you're a new company, right? All of a sudden, it's way skewed. Anyway, so getting back to your actual question, if there obviously you can, clothing, the benefit of it is minimum order from your manufacturer is usually pretty low. You can usually find U.S. manufacturing that gets really low. It's just a little bit more expensive. So you can get into clothing fairly cheap, right? You can spend $1,000 or $2,000. It's not impossible to save that kind of money and just spend that to bring in clothing to launch your business. That's kind of the pro of that. So if you don't feel like your product is unique enough to launch on Kickstarter, that's your lifestyle clothing company, then you can always do it out of pocket. But I would personally say figure out a material or some kind of pitch that brings value, because that's going to help you in your business in general. Any product that's really good to launch on Kickstarter is going to be a way better product to just sell online. It's going to be way easier to sell. So just think about those things, like where you want to take it and why you're starting that in particular versus making a toiletry bag or something that is a little less saturated.
Great. Hey, so in between our last couple of questions here, actually, we're picking up on viewers. We're really rolling in right now. Guys, it's time for the giveaway. So if you're ready for the giveaway, I want to see you guys type Lance in the chat. That's LANCE. You will be able to win some free membership for our community. Look at those flooding in. Wow.
Yeah, it's fun to see a bunch of people typing Lance.
All right, so
That's
we'll check back in with you guys in a few minutes. Hey, so I've seen a bunch of questions about Amazon, and whether it be Amazon warehousing or taking care of your warehousing needs, or Amazon FBA, maybe you can, if you have any experience with that, touch on that, give us your thoughts, because there's a lot of people I know that do some Amazon work.
Totally. Amazon, there's 2 ways to do it, right? So we did Amazon for gravel for a little while. The problem is Amazon takes a pretty big cut. Like Amazon FBA takes 20% of your product. So if you're running ads to your website, so say your product costs $100 and it costs you $50 per conversion, you have that $50 left, but you're giving then they leave your website and go to Amazon. So all of a sudden you're only making $30 off that $100. And that's just not enough margin to survive. So Amazon can be a really hard place. As far as actually wholesaling on Amazon, which is what a lot of YouTubers talk about and a lot of TikTokers talk about, and I see it all over the place, just be really careful with it. Just know that if you go to Alibaba to find a product to sell on Amazon, that's likely something that somebody else developed, right? Like if you were to go and look on Alibaba for a toiletry bag, so you could go sell it on Amazon, that's something we spent a ton of time and money developing. So what I would suggest is actually developing your own product, making it your own variant to sell on Amazon versus just putting your name or your logo on somebody else's development. So that's kind of my take on it. Just bring more value than just undercutting, because that's essentially what you'd be doing, right? You do what these other people did to our toiletry bag. You made our product, or you brought in our product, and you're undercutting us with something that we developed. And to me, it's just not like a great way to. There's plenty of innovation ideas and like plenty of ways that you can make a really cool product. Just slapping your name on somebody else's product and then selling it on Amazon is just not that fun or like an awesome way to do it. So I would say it's like the gray area of selling products, where you want to be in the white area. You want to be in the area that like you're really excited about and proud of your business, you know?
Lance, I think you had a absolutely badass series on TikTok talking about Instagram is dead. I don't know if it was clickbait or what, but it caught my attention, and maybe you can go over that and explain to people your thought process and really on the marketing side of things. Is Instagram really dead?
So it was half clickbait, half truth, right? That TikTok, I had no idea it was going to blow up, but it came from a place of me talking to one of my friends. She makes music, and her music is so good. Her name's Goldmyth. So if you go check her out on Instagram or on Spotify or anything, really, really cool music. She plays the harp, and she runs that harp through pedals, so she has effects on it like a guitar. Really cool music. Anyway, she's super talented, and she's been putting all her effort into Instagram. And I've been telling her, Janessa, like, TikTok is a way easier platform to grow. Why are you putting so much effort into Instagram and not growing? Like, you've hardly grown at all in like the last year or two. Why are you putting all your effort there? And she was just really stuck on it. She was like, well, this is where I, like, aesthetically, this is what makes sense. And I'm like, let's figure out how to make TikToks. Like, that's the platform that's super growing. So I made that TikTok out of frustration of like, TikTok's, like, Instagram's dead. Like, Instagram is not the place to start a business right now. There are obviously a lot of people, like even us, we run Instagram ads right now, and we're making really good, like, having really good conversions on Instagram. People are obviously still on Instagram, but if you're starting a business right now, figure out how to launch it on TikTok, not Instagram, because Instagram's not in a growth phase right now. They're in a capital phase. They're trying to make a lot of money right now and like optimize ads. They're not trying to get users to 1 million followers. But TikTok is new enough that they're still like, well, my account's a great example. I literally, yesterday was my 1 month mark with the Makers Academy account, and I hit 15,000 followers. And it's like, is that going to happen on Instagram? Zero chance that happens on Instagram right now. So, unless it's Reels, which Reels is just a gateway drug to TikTok, you know? So it was half clickbait, half like frustration, but totally. I think there's a lot of truth to it.
Yeah, so and I've had this conversation with a ton of our community members before. It doesn't matter what line of work that you are in at all. TikTok is a place that you can absolutely change your life. For those that don't know, 6 months ago, I had no followers on anything at all. I had no followers. I was finishing my master's degree, and literally made the TikTok, went viral, my first video, and now we're gonna break 1 million this week.
Crazy.
And it's been like 6 months. And the whole business has been built around TikTok. I've been able to communicate with all of these amazing people in the stream and in the chat through TikTok. And so if you do real estate, make a TikTok and learn a little bit about it. It's really about quality and quantity. Pump out as much shit as you can with great quality, and I promise you something will go viral. You can change your life. You can start a business. You can grow your side hustle. You can absolutely do it from the pleasure of your phone. Totally. And with that being said, let's roll out the first winner for the Lance, Lance, all the millions of you guys saying Lance in the chat. Let's roll out the first winner right now. Baggage Claim Prod has won the giveaway. All right. I think we'll do one more giveaway too right now if we get a second. And while we're doing that, Lance, can you just give us your closing thoughts, brother? Just tell us, we got a lot of young people in here. I will say that. We've got a lot of people that are at ages of 14 to 20 with no money, and they have this window of opportunity and this drive to be able to make something happen. if you were in their shoes with no money and drive, what would you be doing right now to change your life?
Totally. I think for one, I would start doing the 5 daily. So start writing down 5 business ideas every single day. That'll change your mindset. It'll start thinking of businesses. And then once you have one that you feel like really solves a lot of people's issues, don't be scared to ask for help. You're welcome to come on to Makers Academy. I do lives all the time, and then also just commenting whatever. I'm happy to help in whatever way. But start asking people that have successful businesses for help. Say, okay, where should I start with this? Because it's going to, I could give like a really blanket statement, but depending on your idea, it's going to be slightly variance and like kind of wiggling around. So try and network as good as you can. Get to know as many entrepreneurs as you can, because it's really easy to ask them for help and to take them out to lunch or have 30 seconds of their time. So that's what I would do. Start trying to find businesses to bring the most amount of value to people as possible, and then meet as many people as you possibly can.
Amazing. Hey, Lance, I want to thank you so much, dude. You've really brought on so much value to our community. This is truly the first ever, first time that we've ever done something like this at this magnitude, and we only hope to keep scaling up. A firm handshake for you, brother. A fist bump. You crushed it tonight, and the quality is amazing. The content's amazing. We're gonna have this downloaded. There you go. We're gonna have this downloaded so you guys can go back and rewatch this and learn and take notes. And with that being said, Lance, just before we do the last roll, go ahead and tell people, get your pen and paper out, guys. Tell people about your, all of your social medias and where they can find you on your site. And if you guys want to learn more from the man himself, he has a bunch of courses where he can teach you all about the in-depth, nitty-gritty details that it takes to make it in this business.
Totally. So Makers Academy is my TikTok channel. I'm really putting all my eggs into the TikTok basket on social media. So that's the main place to contact me. But we also have the Instagram, which is Makers Academy Co. That you can check that out. It's a little bit easier to kind of DM and stuff there if you want to check it out. But and then makersacademy.co is our website. So that's where we have those courses. We have a course on product development, so walks you through like, is your idea even a good idea, how to manufacture, and then how to kind of get a final sample. And then we have a second course that kind of gives you all the ins and outs, exactly what we do to raise millions of dollars on Kickstarter. So they're pretty cheap. They're under $100. I believe we have a Black Friday sale going on this week that we've discounted them. Each course, $100, it will bring you thousands or tens of thousands of dollars worth of value. Like we will money back guarantee, like the value is there. So anyway, that's a little self plug because I'm really excited about the courses. So that's why I plug so hard. But for free content, Makers Academy, I post there 3 times a day on TikTok. So
make sure you guys go grab that course, guys. I promise you, you heard it from Lance's lips here, man. He is crushing the game. We're talking millions of dollars have been raised. We're talking 10 plus products made. The man's 32 and he's been out here grinding and hustling harder than anybody I know. So let's get a round of applause for Lance. Thank you, Lance, so much for coming through here. And without further ado, Nitro, do me a favor and roll that dice one more time and let's see who won. Oro WM has won the giveaway. Awesome. All right. Well, I just want to say thank you guys. Thank you to all of you guys for tuning in. This has been amazing. You guys, we didn't lose any viewers the whole time. We actually kept increasing. So this has been awesome. And we hope to keep doing these, once a month. And you guys are amazing. And from all of us at Wiseguy Investing, Lance, thank you so much for the free game, the value that you have brought to us. It's truly incredible, and you're at the beginning of something that's incredible and new. And everybody go follow my man on all social media.
Cool. Thanks so much, man. I'm happy to come on whenever you want.
Alrighty. And with that being said, guys, go follow Makers Academy at TikTok, makersacademy.co, and we will see you guys next time. Thank you so much.